namaskar and adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. In the series that we are doing of different house lords conjunct with different planets, mind you, we have already done the series of different house lords conjunct with other house lords. We have also done the series of planets conjunct with different other planets. For example, Sun conjunct with Mercury, Sun conjunct with Venus, Sun conjunct with Jupiter, then Jupiter conjunct with all the other planets. We have already done both these series, completed them. We are now doing the series of house lords conjunct with different planets, which means the first house lord conjunct with Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars and so on, then the second and so on. And in this series, today we will be doing the fifth house lord conjunct with different planets. Now, it's important to note that the fifth house lord stands for a number of areas of life. It stands for your love, your romance, it stands for your investments, it stands for the changes in your career, upheavals in your career which you bring about, or the zodiac or the dasha antardasha, the planetary placements bring about. It is also about your children. It is also about how different challenges, different issues in your life make you think differently. It is also your education till up to your graduation and so on, and many other factors. But these 5-6 areas are the principal factors which affect us the most. So when the fifth house lord gets conjunct with different planets, those planets will also influence the areas of and the attributes of the fifth house. So let's jump in and understand how when the fifth house lord gets conjunct with different planets, what are the flavors they bring in because of the influence on the fifth house lord, where the conjunction occurs, that brings in its own flavor, and how sometimes the animosity or the friendliness of the planets, fifth house lord and the other planet, may bring in its own flavor as well. But before we go ahead, friends, if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe to my channel, because then YouTube helps propagate it further. Others will also be able to learn from these videos, help solve their life problems also, and you will also earn some good karma. So please don't lose this opportunity of earning some good karma. The ratio of people who watch my videos while subscribed is just 58 to 59% of people are the ones who have not subscribed but are regular viewers, and 41 to 42% are the ones who have subscribed and are regular viewers. So by virtue of you not subscribing yet watching my videos regularly, you're only not helping others get access to the video. So please help by subscribing to my channel. If you are a regular viewer, what's the problem of subscribing to my channel, liking this video and sharing this video? So now let's jump to the topic of the day. So if your fifth house lord is conjunct with the sun, so the flavor of the sun in terms of responsibility, accountability, taking leadership in the fifth house lord attributes or the fifth house areas comes up. So here the person, in say for example in the matters of romance, the person wants to be with somebody who will also add to their stature. They will not look for somebody who is very below their stature. Suppose if you're very rich, you come from a very affluent family, then maybe you may not, go with somebody who is a simpleton or who is maybe lowest of low strata of society. Ideally, you may not want to go with that person unless you're completely smitten by the person. So for you, stature is important, your prestige in life is also important. Specifically connected to the areas of the fifth house, you will try and see that you are able to maintain the prestige there, which means in the matters of your job, your career, what career changes you make, and with whom you are in a romantic relationship, and when you go out in society, who you are with, how that person will also affect your standing in society, how people will see you, why is this person with this simpleton or whatever. So those things do affect your mind. And secondly, you also take responsibility in relations, you also take responsibility in your career, you also take responsibility in how you deal with children, you also take responsibility in career changes also, which means you don't completely let the zodiac or the planetary placements or how the situation at work is which decides where you work or how you work. So many of the changes in your career is also brought about by your own leadership sun represents, and you're also looking at in a career change or joining a job which will also add to a certain prestige to you. You want to work with good brands, you want to work in a role which also gives you more responsibility, more accountability, and more to do. You don't mind working hard, but you want that the work that you do is able to, where you're able to contribute more, and you feel by taking more responsibility, you will also be able to contribute more, you'll also be able to learn more, you'll also be able to grow more. Same thing in the matters of children also. You will take the leadership in the between the spouse, you and your spouse. You may also take a keen interest in the matters of the children. You may also advise the children. You may also involve yourself in children matters. So you will take more or less leadership in different areas of the 5th house. You will also make changes in your career, look forward to in your career, looking at where you have more responsibility. You also have a chance to be able to showcase your competence, your ability to do more through the role that you're given, and generally you aspire for more responsible work, more value-adding work, and more leadership-oriented work as well. Now, which house the conjunction occurs, that will bring in its own flavor. If it's placed, for example, in the 4th house, then 4th house areas will also bring in their own dissemination, while the 5th lord is conjunct with the sun. And if the 5th lord is in an inimical relationship to the sun, then it will make things more difficult. For example, if your 5th lord is Saturn and now it plays in conjunction with the sun, then it will be more tougher, where you'll have to struggle more in terms of the areas, in terms of the nature and quality of sun. However, if it's friendly, say for example it's Moon or Mars, then it will bring in more gains. It will also bring in more positive changes in the areas of the 5th house, whether in love and romance, whether in your job, or your ability to make investments, or how you deal with your children. Now, if the 5th house lord is conjunct with Mercury, so here your mind is always attracted towards or acting in the manner of how Mercury acts, or Mercury reacts, or Mercury thinks, and most of your decisions will be very intellectual decisions, or at least thought through decisions, or at least you'll put some thought before you take decisions. And usually you will go with the data, you look deeply into it, you may do some analysis, you may do some research before taking a decision. For example, if you have to invest in some stocks, share market, or cryptocurrency, whatever, you will take a keen eye or keen interest in how the stock has been behaving, what the markets say, what the data says, and then after doing the pros and cons of both the sides, then you will make the investments, because your Mercury is involved, and you will try to take more intellectual decisions rather than more emotional ones. You will not be swept with emotions. That is also important in the matters of love and romance. You will not be swept with emotions. It is not love at first sight generally for you. And even if you like somebody, even if you fall in love with somebody at the first sight, but yet you will think through that, is this person the right person for me? Do I see that this thing can go forward, and will this person suit me in terms of our values, how I think, how the person thinks, our goals, our finances? So it will be thought through decision before you take it long term. Or it may be a short term, it may be more fun, which Mercury represents, and you may be with the person because also the person is very intelligent also, at least the person is wise enough and sober enough. You will not just go with somebody just for the fun of it. You want the person also, that the person is also intelligent, the person also, you can also have an intellectual conversation generally with the person. Unless you're too young, then you don't care about it. The other thing is in matters of your career, how you make changes in your career, with which company you work, there also you may take intellectual decisions. So when any career change is possible, or when an offer is made to you, then you will not just look at how much money I'm making or what role I'm getting. You will look at long term. You will also think through more intellectual means how the role may pan out, how the growth may happen. So you will balance a number of things. For example, the brand looks to be good, but the money is not so good, or the money is good, the brand is also good, however the role is not so good. So you will balance the pros and cons, and then overall, after looking at all the aspects, then you will take a decision. If you're not so happy with the decision currently, with the company currently, you will wait, and then when you find some role which seems to be checking all the boxes, then you will try to vie for that role. So whether in investments, whether in your career, whether in the matter of how you deal with children, very practical, very logical, very interpretive, and very focused, very practically you will raise children, you will deal with your children, and you will also lead the children, and you will guide the children. And now where the conjunction occurs will also bring in its own flavor, in which house it occurs. Say for example, if the 5th house lord and Mercury are conjunct in the 9th house, so the decision regarding education will be very pragmatic, thought through, how it will affect your career, whether you will be able to go to foreign lands. All these attributes will also play their own flavor. Other thing is whether the planet, which is the 5th house lord, is friendly or inimical to Mercury, will also be important. If it's Jupiter, which is your 5th house lord, then you are in some spot of bother, because there are these two planets, Jupiter and Mercury, think differently. Mercury is more pragmatic, whereas Jupiter is something which is more wise and will not shy away from taking losses initially, so that you gain over a long period of time. However, if the 5th house lord is Saturn, then it will give better results, because it's more patient orientation that Saturn and Mercury will bring in. However, if it's the Moon, then you are in some spot of bother, because Moon is more emotional attributes, whereas Mercury is more logical interpretive. So those flavors will also come in basis your 5th house lord is what planet and when it is in a conjunction with Mercury. Now if the 5th house lord is in conjunction with Venus, so here you will be attracted to, and you will be guided by, and you will be influenced by, in the matters of the 5th house related to the qualities of Venus. So here in the matters of spouse or a partner, you may want somebody who's very beautiful, who's very attractive to look at, and who has a certain poise, who has a certain charm. And you may also fall for a person without thinking too much logic and weighing pros and cons. You may not even think long term initially. You're just in love, and you will enjoy the love, the romance, going out, visiting this place, going to pubs, especially if you're young. Even if you are in your 20s, you may still like the good life and hanging out. You may just enjoy the company, the love and romance, and the intimacy, you may enjoy all that. But the challenge sometimes is that when you find somebody better looking, and maybe somebody who seems to be more richer in the overall quality of the person, the charm, the poise, then you may be attracted toward that person also. So here it's sometimes difficult to keep your heart under control, because Venus, the Cupid, may play too many arrows at you. And so usually in the younger days, during your teenage years or your early 20s, you may go through many flings before you eventually find somebody and settle down with somebody. Same thing with your career. When you choose a career, you may look at more flashy things. What is the brand, whether the brand is big, whether the money is good, whether I gain more material gains out of it, whether the benefits, other benefits are good. And usually the thinking is not too long term, that over 5 years what I'll gain, what kind of growth I'll get, what kind of learning I may get. You may not be attributed towards it. Or you may look at some industry which is more glamour oriented, where there is a charm, you're attracted towards the show and the shine, or the artistic denotation, or the materialistic denotation, or the money aspects of it, or accounts or finance. You may get attracted towards that, and your career choices may also be based on that. And even in your investments, you may look at, where am I getting more money? You are not so concerned about what is the brand of the company, nothing. Wherever I'll make more money, wherever my money is more secure, I'll go with that. So Venus getting conjunct with the 5th house lord will bring in those properties also. Now which house the conjunction occurs will bring in its own flavor. If the 5th house lord and Venus are conjunct in the 11th house, so then a lot of social attributes may also come in. The person that you get attracted to, maybe somebody who's from your social circle, or a friend first, before ending up becoming your lover, those flavors will also come in. Secondly, which is the 5th house lord, which planet it is, and now conjunct with Venus, will bring in its own flavor. For example, if the 5th house lord is Sun and now conjunct with Venus, so this is not an easy energy to be able to handle that energy. If it's Mars, it may be even more tougher, because Mars and Venus are two opposite ends of the spectrum. Aries and Libra, two multicorner signs of Mars and Venus, are at opposite ends. So it is not an easy energy to comprehend and to be able to handle. Usually this may give you at least one girl child if you have children, and you have beautiful children who their own tastes in life may also be more refined. And you may also like the good quality of life. You may like good brands, you may like good perfumes, you may like good soaps. So this is a person who will like to, or has interest in, or loves to have the better quality of life, better things in life. Now if the 5th house lord gets conjunct with the Moon, so here a lot of emotionality that Moon brings in, the attachment that Moon brings in, the empathy, the support orientation that Moon brings in, all affect the areas of the 5th house. So when you're taking decisions about the 5th house areas, or when you're moving in the direction of those areas which are related to the 5th house, many times the emotional quotient of Moon also influences it, or your understanding nature, or your ability to get attached to something, and if you're not able to like something immensely, you're not able to love something, or if you can't relate to something, then it's difficult for you to be able to take that up. So in the matters of love and romance also, you may choose a partner who's more sensitive, who's more caring, who's more empathetic, who's more understanding, who listens to you, who cares for you, who shows the love and care for you. Sometimes the person can be a little clingy also. Then you feel, what did I get into? But you may also be the person with the similar characteristic. You also may be caring, you also may be giving, you also may be empathetic, you may also be understanding. And so usually you may also be somebody who gets attached, and it's very difficult for you to let go of the person, especially if there is a breakup. You are one of those people who will pine for it, maybe sob. It will not be easy for you to focus on your work, maybe eat well, sleep well. It will be difficult for you to get over it, and before you get into another relation, that too, you may carry that baggage, that emotional baggage, for a long period of time. Secondly, in the matters of work, in your career also, you may choose that career, you may choose that job, you may choose that industry which you can also relate to, which you also like to do, which you also love to work in. And if you have to choose between brands, you may not go for the better brand or bigger brand. You may go with the brand which you feel you can relate to more, which you can also feel yourself attached to more, where you can also feel yourself emotionally connected to more, rather than just something shiny. Sometimes I know somebody whose 5th house lord was conjunct with moon, and the person got a chance to work with a very world famous automobile company, a huge conglomerate, but the person went to another automobile company. And when I asked him, why did you go for a much smaller company? So he said, the first car which my dad bought was from this company, so I had that emotional attachment to this company, to the brand, so I wanted to work with it. So sometimes people may take those emotional decisions, even when related to career, even when related to the love and romance, and even when related to children. Sometimes you are so attached to children, you smother them with love, you over-mother them with love, and sometimes it's very difficult for you when the children want to leave home for better careers or for education or whatever. You are somebody who may be one of the most emotionally affected person than somebody else. And also in the matters of investments, you will be somebody who will also feel emotionally about certain investment that you make. It is like, if you don't feel right, you may not invest. You have all the data, everything, like a Mercury person may get everything and say, okay, this makes logical sense. But after getting all the data and all, then you feel, I don't feel right. My gut feeling says this is not right. So generally, when your gut doesn't tell you something is right, you will not go for it, and you will find many times the gut is right. Now what you have to see is which house the 5th house lord is conjunct with moon in. So if the 5th house lord with moon is conjunct is in the Lagna, so your overall thinking in your life, how you think, how you make your goals, how you look at your career, everything will be affected by the emotional connotation of moon also, rather than a rational thinking, say a Mercury or a Saturn. Now the other thing is, which planet is the 5th house lord? If the 5th house lord is Venus and now it's placed with moon, so it can be a difficult energy to balance this. Same thing with 5th house lord is Saturn and now conjunct with moon. This can even become a dosha. This can create more challenges for you. So check which house the 5th house lord is conjunct with moon, and which is the 5th house lord, and whether it has a friendly or an inimical relationship with the moon, because those denotations, those manifestations will also come in. Now if the 5th house lord is conjunct with Mars, this is a very, very strong energy. So which means in any and every area of the 5th house, you will have a lot of energy to pursue those things, and with a lot of energy, with a lot of focus, and you will put a lot of effort in getting those things through. So in a career, you may always, if you look for a brand, or if you think that you need to work in a certain industry, you'll work very hard to attain success in that industry, in your job, in your role. And you will like those jobs, those careers where you can have goals. You don't mind tough goals, but you want exciting goals. And if you are in a job which you love and you like to do, then you will sustain that job maybe for longer. However, if you are in a job which you don't find exciting enough, which is not challenging enough, which is not fun enough, where goal attainment is difficult, then you may also lose your focus there, and you think that things are not working out here. I want to go into another job. I want to change my job. So sometimes this energy of rushing into jobs, rushing into roles, rushing into some projects, only to find that later you don't relate to it so much can also come in. So usually initially the first 10 to 15 years of your career, you will find this is not an easy energy to deal with. Why? Because the 5th house is the 8th to the 10th house. So the most of the upheavals which come into the 5th house is also because of what is the planet, where it is placed, what dignity it is in. So now because it is placed with Mars, and Mars is a always aggressive planet, assertive planet, rushing into things without thinking, many a time this can get you into those situations. First you get into that and then you think, oh, what did I get into? Same thing may happen not only about your career, in which job you change or you take up, which projects you go, but also in the matters of love and romance. You are so easy to fall in love with somebody, and once you fall in love with the person, within a few months or maybe a few years, you also feel, is this really exciting enough? This is not fun enough. I'm not loving it enough. So usually this is also energy where after some time you realize that this may not be the thing for me. So this, if 5th house lord is conjunct with Mars, you need to think twice before you take up a job, before you take up a project, before you get into a team, before you fall in love with somebody and propose it, or you want to take it forward. And sometimes it so happens to me, usually in the consultation, if somebody is also proposed and then later on had afterthoughts, this is usually with somebody who has Mars conjunct with the 5th house lord, because these people rush into love affairs. They even rush into proposing because I'm madly in love with you, only after a few months to think that is this truly the person who I want to spend the rest of my life with. And same thing with kids. They usually sometimes are too aggressive with the kids. Sometimes they may be a little high-handed with kids also, but their focus and attention on the kids is also high. The involvement with matters of the kids are also very high. They are very protective also of the kids. They are very, very strongly emotionally attached, and that's why sometimes they can anger very, very quickly. They get aggressive very quickly if their relationship is not moving in the direction that they want the relation to go, and if the kids, for example, are not listening to them or not reciprocating their love and affection. Now you have to see which house the 5th house lord is conjunct with Mars in. Say for example, if it is conjunct in the 8th house, so yeah, there may be many upheavals, ups and downs and obstacles also coming into your career, coming into your love and romance also, and some of it is also related to your temper, your habit of rushing into things, your habit of first getting into things, into relation, into job, and then thinking whether this appeals to me or not. But it also gives you the courage to get out of the most trying of circumstances if the conjunction of the 5th house lord and Mars is occurring in the 8th house. Second thing you need to check is which planet is your 5th house lord and now conjunct with Mars. Say for example, if the 5th house lord is Venus and now conjunct with Mars, this can be a tough conjunction. But if it's, say for example, if it's the moon, then it's a good yoga, the Chandra Mangal yoga, moon and Mars. If the 5th house lord is Jupiter and now conjunct with Mars, this can be a very, very strong, wise energy, but very strong goal-oriented energy. But if it's conjunct with Saturn, then it can be dual-mindedness. Should I be patient which Saturn wants me to, or I need to rush into things which Mars wants me to? So you need to also check whether there is animosity in the energy and whether the conjunction is occurring in the right house and in the right dignity. Now if the 5th house lord is conjunct with Jupiter, so yeah, all the attributes of Jupiter, of being wise, of taking thought through decisions, of being large hearted, bringing prosperity, bringing abundance to the areas of the 5th house, all come in. And Jupiter is the Karaka of the 5th house, especially of children. So usually this will give at least one male child, or it will give you some children. It will not deny you children. And usually if Jupiter is conjunct with the 5th house lord, then children's lives are also relatively easier. Children are also wiser and they generally do well also, and they also have more prosperous life, more better life even than the parents. And because the 5th house lord is conjunct with Jupiter, a number of decisions that you take in matters of career, in matters of romance, in matters of investments are also more thought-through decisions and long-term decisions. These are not very analytical decisions that Mercury is involved with, or emotional decisions that Moon is involved in. These are long-term thought-through decisions that, is it wise for me to take up this role? Is it wise for me to join this job? Will I grow? Will I learn? And if there is less growth, if there is less learning, if there is less growth through learning, then the person will hesitate to get into that job, into that career. Same thing in the matters of love and romance. Even if they fall deeply with somebody, they may look, is it wise thing for me to take this long term? Do I see this relationship surviving? Can we both be happy? And the person thinks from both sides. The person is not only thinking, will I be happy? the person is also thinking whether the other person is also happy. And in fact, sometimes the person thinks more for the other person rather than self, and thinks if the other person is not happy, how can I be happy? So this is a very wise thinking person, very pragmatic thinking person, thinking long term, taking wise decisions. And usually the person will be more giving, will be more large hearted also, and will be also bringing a lot of good luck to the relationship. Now, in which house the fifth house lord is conjunct with Jupiter is important. For example, if it gets into the ninth house, then this is a very, very strong placement for getting a lot of educational qualification. The person loves to learn, the person loves to grow through the learning, and the person also attains a lot of educational qualification easier than other conjunctions. The other thing is, you also need to see which is the fifth house lord which is conjunct with Jupiter. If the fifth house lord, for example, is Venus and Jupiter just don't, the energies don't gel, so this is a more tougher placement. But if it's Mars or Saturn or Sun, then this can be a very good conjunction, where Jupiter with its wisdom, and say Sun with its responsibility, Saturn with its hard working, and Mars with its go-getting energy can give you very good results. Now, if the fifth house lord is conjunct with Saturn, so here a lot of patience, perseverance, hard work, servitude, logic, loyalty, commitment, all that will come in. So a person usually will be very disciplined, very orderly, very structured in the matters of the fifth house. So if this person works in any company, the person will put in long hard work, will be very organized, will be very structured in their work, and will never say no to any project given to them, any responsibility given to them, and will be very patient. However, they will always be looking at the stability and growth. They will not look only at stability or only at growth. They want both. So they want to grow fast, but also they want a stable job. So usually if the person finds that they are not growing but they are stable, so they may look at it for 2 or 3 years. They may be more patient than the others, but after 2-3 years they want to join another job where they can get growth, but that is also a more stable job, more stable brand, more stable company. They don't mind getting slightly less in terms of their remuneration. However, they will want more stability. They will also want to work for a better brand, and they don't mind working long hours. They don't mind to work in a team environment. They are not so much hankering after role, designation, the power and the influence. They want the power of and influence to come to them over a period of time, and they're ready to work hard for it. Same thing in their love and relationship. They don't just fall in love quickly, but if they do, they are more stable in their approach to love, romance. If they want to propose to somebody, they will take their time. They will take a lot more time than somebody, say for example fifth lord conjunct with Mars. They may also weigh the pros and cons of, will this relationship be stable? Stability is very important for them. Whether this person will be loyal, and overall will this relationship sustain. They will also look at the practical side. Financially, are we all thinking in the similar direction? Can we look at how we grow together as a couple? Can we also be more acceptable to society? Because societal rules and regulations, behaving with the rules and regulations the society wants them to behave, are also important for them. Though may not be the most important, but they are also important. So social acceptability is also important for them. Same thing in the matters of children. Children may come late to them. However, when the children come to them, they will be somebody who will be very, very organized, very disciplined how they bring up the children. And sometimes the children may feel my parents are more disciplinarian than somebody else's parent. However, they will give strong values to the children, and they'll really bring up the children well. And usually the children will also, because of how you parent, the children will also grow up to be more responsible people. And similarly, in the matters of investments, they will invest money in the long term. They don't want the quick money. They are ready to be patient. They will invest in some long term investment. They'll spread the risk. They will be more pragmatic, and they don't mind their money growing slowly, but working for them and getting their gains over a period of time. These are the more mutual fund people rather than short selling people on a day-to-day people. Now, which house the fifth house lord is conjunct with Saturn becomes very, very important. If it's conjunct in, say for example, in the 10th house, so this is a very, very stable person, working very, very hard and hardly trying to make a change in career, unless the role change is very, very good. Something is really very, very green for them to be able to move into a new placement. Now, which planet is the fifth house lord also is important. If the fifth house lord is Sun, now placed with Saturn, so this is a more inimical placement. The energies don't gel together. Same thing with if fifth house lord is Moon. Moon and Saturn become a Vish dosha. But if the fifth house lord, say for example, is Mercury, or the fifth house lord is Jupiter and now placed with Saturn, then it's a much better conjunction, gives you much better results. Now if the fifth house lord is conjunct with Rahu, this is an extremely curious energy, extremely impatient energy, but very tactful energy, extremely clever energy. More than intelligent, it's more tactful and more clever, very diplomatic energy. And the person will also use their intelligence, their pragmatism, their logic, along with more tactful dissemination of how they use that energy. So in most of the matters of the fifth house, they are very hungry for success. They are in a hurry. They want quick success. They want large success. They want big success, and they will go for that success hook or by crook. So if they like somebody, if they really want somebody in their life, they put all the energy to get the person by hook or by crook. They will use their friend circle. They will try to get the number of the person. In some way, the person will try and attract the person into their life. Same thing with their career. If in their career they feel they are not doing very well, or they get a job which seems to not be getting the best results, but they have nothing in hand. So short term they may take something, but always on the long term they keep their eyes on the lookout. That while I am in this job, even if it's 6 months is over, 1 year is over, if they get something more shiny, more attractive in terms of money, remuneration, growth, they will immediately jump to that job. And once they jump to that job, after 1.5 to 2 years, again they're looking at where I can get growth. But these people are extremely diplomatic, and they can have very strong networks. They can attract people from different societies. They can be very good friends. And these are the people who will also rush to the need of their friends much more than the others. The challenge with this placement sometimes can be these people can also be addicted to the matters of the fifth house. For example, if they love gaming or if they like gizmos, then it's very difficult for them to put those down. If they get onto something, Netflix or phones or games, something, they get addicted to it. Other thing is that initial life they may have many feelings and they are not able to sustain any love and romance for a long period of time. They get attracted to somebody and then they get too bored with somebody and then they want to move off. And if that relationship is not serving them, they will be easy to dump them. Unless here the more emotional attachment comes in terms of which is the fifth house lord, which is now placed with Rahu. And in the matters of children also, they want the children to do very well. They will push their children to do very well. They will direct the children a lot. They will also try and bring in the most street smartedness way of telling children that this is how you need to behave, this is how the world is. And so along with wisdom, they may also try and bring in the tactfulness in the children. They may try to raise them like that. Same thing with their investment. They will want to invest in those areas where they can get quick money, big money and fast money. And then they will want that to put their money to grow the money further. And usually they don't want only one source of income. They want 2 or 3 other sources of income if possible for them. So even if they are working in a career, in a job, they will also look at, can I do something else? Can I make some investment which also helps me grow? Or can I join something else or do something else or do something of my own? Because where I'm working, it may not be giving me the growth, it may not be giving the money, it may not be giving me the gain that I'm looking for. So now which house the fifth house lord is conjunct with Rahu is important. If the fifth house lord is conjunct with Rahu in the 11th house, then this person may have a big social circle and will make friends with those people where the gains may also come in. If the fifth house lord is conjunct with Rahu in the 10th house, then they may be very diplomatic in their work. They will be very diplomatic with their bosses, and sometimes the growth also is much faster for them because of this tendency to make more practical decisions, thoughtful decisions, but very tactful decisions. Now, which is the fifth house lord which is conjunct with Rahu is important. If it's the fifth house lord is Moon, now conjunct with Rahu, then Moon gets eclipsed by Rahu. That's a tough placement. Same thing with Sun and Rahu together. However, if it's Mercury and Rahu, then this can be a very intellectual person, very thought-thinking, very thought-provoking person, a very clever and intellectual person together. So this is a very potent combination for somebody to rise to the top, to be able to use their tact, their intellectual capacity, their cleverness, and thought through, balanced out, practical, logical decision, and use both the intellectual capacity of Mercury and the cleverness of Rahu, the tactful orientation of Rahu, to be able to really make it big. Now, if the fifth house lord is conjunct with Ketu, now this is a slightly difficult placement because Ketu will absorb and negate the results of the areas of the fifth house. So usually, many a time the person struggles in romances, in the career, in the matters of their investments, even in the matters of children, the person struggles to get the best gains out of it, and usually this leads them with a less satisfaction in their life from what they have got from the life. So in matters of love and romance, they may take time to find somebody who's the right person for them, and sometimes they have to go through 1 or 2 breaks before they may eventually settle, and 1 or 2 first breaks can be very heartbreaking for them. It will be difficult for them, and they will pull up the strains of the strings of the heart of the emotion. Same thing in the matters of career. Changing the career is not easy for them. To get the right breaks is not easy for them. They have to really struggle to get good gains in career, to have good growth in your career, to find the right job, and also to make the right changes. Usually they may also find that they don't grow fast in their careers. They are not able to get the high appreciation and the acknowledgement from their bosses also. It is difficult for them. The growth is slow, it is painstaking, and only after years of hard work and stable and dedicated and committed work, then they grow slow. So this is not an easy placement with Ketu is in the 5th house, because in the matters of career gains, this can be a more slow, painstaking journey up ahead. Similarly, in the matters of investment, their investment just don't seem to be getting them the returns that they are liking. So usually this is the placement where it's better off when you invest in the long term rather than go for some short gains in stock market or in crypto, because then suddenly sometimes you'll find the entire investment is wiped out and you have nothing. But sometimes unexpectedly huge gains can also be thrown at the person. Usually sudden gain can also come in career, sudden gain can also come in terms of the investment also. And in the terms of children, they will find, even if they have children, usually the gains that they get from the children may not be as much as they want the satisfaction from. Usually children of these people may also get into those work areas or get into those countries where the access to the children may not be as much as they want. So in most matters of the 5th house, usually even if they have those things, there will be slightly less satisfaction than if some other planet was conjunct with the 5th house lord. Now in which house the 5th house lord is conjunct is also important. If the 5th house lord and Ketu get conjunct in, say for example, in the 2nd house, so your earning may get something, the earning may be getting affected. So even in spite of their very hard work, they may not be able to save enough. All their earning that they get is all spent away, usually from family matters. And which planet is conjunct with Ketu is also important. So for example, if Sun is conjunct with Ketu, Sun gets eclipse. Moon is conjunct with Ketu, so they are not able to emotionally showcase themselves, emotionally show how they feel, what they want, and show the attachment also to people, or get a job where they can emotionally get connected to, or get the job of their liking. But say for example, if Mercury is connected to Ketu, then this person can be somebody who's very logical but is also very patient and is ready to work hard over a period of time and use their intellectual capacity and can play the waiting game and eventually get their success. So friends, now that we have seen how the 5th house lord when conjunct with different planets brings about different manifestation, will bring about different probabilities, will bring about different results, check where and how, in which planet the 5th house lord is conjunct with, which house it is in conjunct with, whether it is in some doshas or yogas, whether the planet is sharing an inimical or a more friendly energy with the planet that it is conjunct with, and based on how the conjunction is occurring, then take decision accordingly, because the 5th house is one of the most important houses, because it is connected to your love and romance, it is connected to your children, it is connected to your career changes, it is connected to your gains also, and it's connected to your investments. So friend, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the link given below. Till some other time, some other video. This is your friend Astrologer and Guide Irfan signing off. Ciao.